Here we are at the blog post and 2019 theme website. You can see my menu items here. Here's my blog post. And what we want to do now is be able to customize. And when I say customize, I mean hide, show things, change colors, more or less take control of the CSS. Now there's three main ways to do this. One way is if by going to the dashboard on WordPress, you can go to this thing called Customize Your Site from Dashboard. If I click on that, it allows you to go in and do some fairly useful things just within this kind of admin panel GUI. You can change the site identity, titles, logos. You can change some colors. You can quickly update the menus by going to the menu section. And it also has the CSS panel here. Now in this panel, you can see that I've made the entry title color blue. That's this here. If I was to delete this and then publish again, you'll see that the entry title becomes black. Now I found out how to change that by using the inspector. I got the inspector, I looked at the WordPress website, just like we do on our static sites, and I found this H2 class entry title. If I type that in here, dot entry hyphen title, just like we do in CSS, and do color green, you can see when we publish, it will immediately change the CSS. There's only one problem. Changing CSS in this area is really weak. You won't be able to change a lot of things by writing CSS directly, especially when you compare it to working on a static site. That's the problem with CMS websites, WordPress and other large CMS websites. CSS becomes kind of stubborn. They give you these kind of easy to use interfaces to change things, but they don't expect you to be a web developer. And they only give you a limited amount of control. So if you want to change a lot of CSS and really customize this site, you have to go deeper into the levels of customization. This is probably the easiest level of customization with CSS. I'm just going to close this now. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the first kind of deeper level of customizing CSS in WordPress. I don't recommend doing this continuously, but for today it's fine. And the next session will show an even better way of customization. By going to Appearance and going down to the Theme Editor, most WordPress themes will allow you to directly edit CSS within the editor. You can see over here on the right-hand side, it says Style Sheet, style.css. If I scroll down this, because that's what's been selected, I can now directly edit the theme CSS. What does that mean? It means if I go over here and right-click on this text, if I inspect, I can see that that text is in H3. If I go back to the style CSS in the editor, type in H3, do color red, and then if I update this file from here, if I go back and reload the page, you'll see now that the color becomes red. What this is allowing us to do is directly edit the theme CSS file from within inside WordPress administration panel, within the GUI. We can tap straight into the CSS. It's a fairly good way of customizing. You can change almost anything. The only problem is that something called updating happens within CMS websites. And if you were to update this theme and its files, your custom CSS here would be overridden. If you never updated your theme, which a lot of people don't do, this approach would be okay. And you can go on to virtually do almost anything with CSS. What do I mean by that? I could target something like this. This is a span with a class, has inline color, has accent color. So what I'll do is I'll copy those two classes I'll go back to this editor. Now those were multi-classes sitting next to each other. So if you remember from our HTML CSS code sessions, if we want to target those, we do it this way. Dot class, no space, dot second class. Then I do my curly brackets and I'll go display none. What I'll do now is I will update this file and I'll go back and I'll reload this page. You can see now that it's disappeared. This is proof that from this place in here, Appearance Theme Editor, Style CSS, you can do any custom CSS you want, but you have to be careful for two reasons. Number one, if you ever update, this will be overwritten back to its original state. You will lose all your custom changes if you ever update your WordPress theme. Number two, you got to be really careful with doing, say, a display none on a class like that, because these classes could be used in other places and we don't know exactly what for. And I've spoken about this. When we do custom code, a static site with HTML, JavaScript, CSS, you have full control over the site because you made it, you wrote the classes. But with these CMS sites, we did not write the code. We've only written some content and we've used some classes to do some CSS. So when you go controlling it with CSS, you might be controlling more things than you realize. It's something to keep in mind. But for custom CSS, Appearance Theme Editor is a good place to start. We'll learn how to go deeper into child themes in our next video.